I want to talk to you today about hidden credit card fees that processors might charge you this year. And you need to be aware of those charges, by the way, okay? So here's a prologue here. First of all, you need to learn what to look out for because the whole thing is that you are actually bombarded with so many fees, so many terms and conditions, so many clauses that you really need to have a clear idea. So I want to share with you common additional fees charged by most credit card processors, okay? So that you are basically you can really protect yourself. Okay, first of all, you have non-qualified discount fees. Now, non-qualified discount fees are pretty specific to one sector or one niche, if you will. So most processors will advertise a low qualified rate, but charge you a number of additional non-qualified fees on top of their standard pricing and merchant rates. So when it comes to a non-qualified discount fees, those are totally murky. In other words, you have no clear definition for what those non-qualified discount fees stands for, and this is why those merchant processors, they are actually taking advantage of the lack of clarity. This is why what you want to do here is that you want to really ask yourself before you actually sign up with a merchant processor. You want to ask them what qualified stands for versus what non-qualified stands for. Okay, and what are the instances where you might be charged non-qualified discount fees? And it's one of those things where whatever answer you get from the merchant processor has to be in writing. So don't actually fall for those non-qualified discount fees. And by the way, those fees can be pretty substantial depending upon the transactional volume that you actually pull every single month. Okay, and one of those things where if you have the proper accounting software, you should be able to track those discount fees versus non-discount fees, so you can actually compare and contrast what fees overall one merchant processor is charging you, so you can make a decision to actually switch to another merchant depending on the delta. If the delta is too much versus one merchant versus another, yes, this could be one merchant processor versus another. This could be a good decision to actually make. So the first hidden credit card fees the processor might charge you, non-qualified discount fees. Second, you have initial setup fees and application fees. And it's one of those, again, this actually those fees are buried in the legal lingo that really accompanies those merchants processor, let's say, contracts. So most processors will have a setup fee for your merchant account. Some will even charge a separate application fee. Can you imagine that? Some will charge you a separate application fee, which is non-refundable, even if your merchant account application is declined, which means that you are giving free money to the processor. Okay, and so this means what? It means that you pay even if you're not able to start accepting payments. And this could be a little problematic because if you have actually set up your whole operation hoping to be approved and they denied you, this could be problematic. And often processors may charge an extra annual fee, which is essentially like paying a setup fee each December or January. Okay, so this is actually, and this can add up to, by the way, and those are substantial amounts that we're speaking about, depending upon the transactional volume that you have. So annual fees may be upwards of $100 and can be included in the fine print of the legal text on your contract. So this is, again, going back to what I told you a little earlier. You want to ask questions beforehand. Don't ask questions afterwards because afterwards things can be very complicated. So when you pick up the phone and you are calling a processor you are interested in doing business with, you want to ask questions about non-qualified discount fees, but also initial setup fees and application fees. It's just a lot easier to ask them upfront than to actually go through the fine prints and read like legalese, because those contracts that I'm talking that I mean, you probably saw the contracts. When it comes to those processor contracts, they are full of legalese, and maybe you nor me don't have the legal background to understand what those terms, what those fine prints really mean. So it's just a lot easier to ask questions beforehand and get the answers that you need to actually start accepting credit card and debit card payments. So another hidden credit card fees that processors may charge you this year. Actually, those fees are interchange differential fees. So we're speaking about interchange differential fees. So differential fees are part of the interchange differential processing method used by most processors. Now, some processors are really trying to get away from that interchange differential processing method, but most, like 90%, like 70 to 90% of processors are still using the interchange differential processing method. Okay, so this is something to really think about. And so on top of the non-qualified rates, this processors will also make you pay the difference in cost between a consumer card and your non-qualified card. So that's really convoluted, but hey, listen, it is costly. So this is why you want to see clearly what kind of payments they are charging you for here. So when I'm talking about having the processor make you pay for the difference between a consumer card and your non-qualified card, this means that you also have to pay an interchange differential fee, even though you already paid a penalty through the non-qualified rate. So this is actually double dipping. When you think about it, this is kind of similar to double dipping because this makes interchange differential pricing expensive as the payment processor double dips you on the same transaction. I mean, same transaction, you're paying like 5% or even in some cases 10%. And God forbid, if you have like a large transactional value, in other words, you have multiple transactions, like if you have thousands of transactions every single month, this could really add up. I mean, you're talking big money here, okay? And it's one of those things where a lot of merchants don't have the proper tools, the proper accounting software to track those merchant processor fees. Because if they were, they would see that those amounts are pretty similar. I'm preparing an entire show on like processor fees that you might actually expect if you want to start accepting credit cards and debit cards. So that will give you a clear idea about what to watch out for, especially this year. And this is really important. So if you are thinking about hidden credit card fees processors might charge you this year, I want you to really think about monthly minimums. You know, this is kind of crazy that they're charging you for monthly minimums because see the thing is you cannot control the transactional value. You can control how you interact with your target audience. You can control how you actually set up your marketing campaigns, how you're trying to go after customers, but you cannot control monthly minimums. But hey, listen, processors are penalizing you for it. So many processors will charge a monthly minimum on top of their standard monthly fees. So this quote unquote monthly minimum is actually depending upon the total fees generated from your Visa and MasterCard transactions, meaning what? Meaning that if you don't process enough payments, this processors will charge you processing fees regardless. Can you imagine that? You do not process enough and they're still charging you anything anyway, which means that they are actually looking at you as a cash cow. They want to really suck as much as they can because for them you are just a business model that must generate revenue. So just be aware of those hidden credit card fees here. And so the thing is that when you think about those monthly minimums, they can be frustrating. It can be really frustrating. Okay, so because some processors will even blame Visa or Mastercard for these minimums, but these fees have nothing to do with Visa or Mastercard and are instead pocketed by the processor charging them. Okay, so be very careful there. That's why I was just telling you a little earlier that you want to ask questions. You want to ask questions at the beginning before actually starting the conversation with them. Okay, so when I speak about monthly minimums, this can be risky for a new business when you are not sure how fast your business will pick up or even cause additional headaches for established businesses in low season or if there is a slow patch for a period of time. I mean, we saw this during COVID, for instance. A lot of merchants were actually charging their customers like crazy when it comes to a monthly minimum because all of a sudden, those business models that relied on normal economic activity actually came to a halt, to really a halt, and so customers were home and they were not charging anything because everybody was kind of scared like crazy, right? And so those monthly minimums were really, really low, and a lot of merchants were charged big time. Another hidden credit card fees that processors might charge you this year, and this is a statement fee as well as admin fee. Admin fees. Let me break it down for you. So what happens here is that many processors will charge additional statement fees, quote unquote statement fees, or quote unquote admin fees on top of their standard monthly fee. So you pay to see how much you are processing every month. That's kind of crazy. I mean, the question is, what kind of admin fees are they talking about? What kind of administrative fees are they charging you? They're charging you already the regular fees, and those fees are supposed to cover the administrative side of things. So they're charging you the admin fees. They're charging the statement fees. So again, once what you want to do is you want to ask questions beforehand. Okay, don't let anybody play games with you. Don't let any any processor play games with you. They got to really explain every single piece of charge. I mean, why they charging you in the first place? Okay, because again, what I'm saying is those quote unquote admin fees, those quote unquote statement fees, they can be consequential. They can be really substantial. So be sure to ask questions so that you don't really end up paying a lot of cash for nothing at all. And so while some processors let you know about these fees up front, others don't, and you'll only find out about them once you are signed up and receive your statement. Okay. So again, going back to the level of transparency, you want to ask questions beforehand. You want to ask questions during the due diligence phase, and ask questions about the fees. And again, any fees that they're charging you or they could potentially charge you, they have to spell out in writing. Don't accept just a phone answer as final and legit. You want to have something in writing that really explains how much they're charging you and why they're charging you this. Okay, because otherwise, again, you need to control your cash inflows versus cash outflows. Very, very important, especially in the long run. So other hidden credit card fees processors might charge you this year include quarterly fees and PCI fees. Now, many processors have recently started charging quarterly fees or monthly PCI fees on top of your monthly account fee. That's crazy, but hey, listen, it is what it is. And PCI compliance is not something payment processors need to charge merchants for. They just need to make sure you are completing your PCI compliance. Okay, I have an entire show on PCI compliance, so I'm not going to go in detail here. But long story short, just remember that PCI is a set of standards designed to ensure that credit card information is captured, retained, and transmitted in a very secure way. Pretty simple. In other words, it is actually a set of rules to reduce the risk of fraudsters, hackers, and thieves from stealing sensitive credit card information. So PCI compliance is mandated by the major card brands: Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover, etc. Now, what does PCI DSS stand for? So PCI is short for PCI DSS and stands for Payment Card Industry Data Security Standard. And what does PCI compliance apply to? Well, PCI compliance rules apply to all payment processors, service providers, and merchants. So even smaller, see, it's not about the size, because even smaller merchants using a mobile app at pop-up shops on the weekend are required to meet PCI standards. And PCI actually is the world's largest security standard, and because it applies to millions of merchants, processors, ATM companies, and other service providers worldwide. And so to really kind of know if you are being PCI compliant, you want to first ask questions, because as a business owner, asking yourself questions about how you treat customer information can help you discover your current level of PCI compliance. Okay, are you storing credit card numbers? If so, where and how? Do you train your staff in handling sensitive data? Do you have antivirus software on all your computers? All of this can help point toward whether or not your business is currently complying with PCI standards. So if something seems amiss, or let's say even unsecure, you want to double check that your business policy is in line with PCI standards, especially what they have to say in the long run. So This is something to really think about. Okay, and so if your payment processor is not compliant, it just means that you have to do better. While all payment service providers are required to be PCI DSS Level 1 compliant, merchants are still responsible for the security scope of their own business environment. So, for instance, a virus infected computer or a dishonest staff member is all it takes for someone to steal credit card numbers from your business. So, we actually recommend that merchants use as many compliant services as possible to help actually shift the scope of responsibility from their business. So that way you have more possibilities, if you will. Finally, I want to share with you early termination, contract closure, and leasing fees. So again, I'm speaking to you about the hidden fees, the hidden credit card fees that processors might charge you this year. So almost all processors have a 3 to 5 year payment processing contract with cancellation fees ranging from $250 to $5,000 or more. I mean, that's crazy, but yeah, I mean, people charge you $5,000 if you cancel earlier. So merchants who sign equipment lease agreements can also face large equipment buyout rates. So it's something to really think about. Okay. Now you want to find out why you should never lease equipment. By the way, lease always seems like let's say an attractive option, right? But why front the cost of an expensive car, for example, when you can essentially rent one for a limited time and save money? Or so goes the argument. However, what if leasing didn't actually save you any money, but instead locked you into a contract that costs more over time than you would have to pay if you were to pay for stuff outright? It sounds criminal, but unfortunately, it's not. And some payment processing companies are the worst proponents of just this sort of scheme. So, what is equipment leasing? Well, an equipment lease is a financing contract between you and a leasing company that can be difficult to get out of. It requires you to make financing payments for a fixed period of usually 4 to 5 years. And equipment leases can end up costing your business quite a bit. So if you haven't signed a contract yet, it's worth understanding exactly what equipment leasing will cost you, right? Now, why do processors try to sell you on equipment leasing? Well, it's simply because it makes them money. So terminal leases are a large source of income for many payment processors, okay, and that's really important. And some do not even offer a choice for you if you do anything but lease a terminal or other components of a POS system. This is often because merchant brokers who prefer this terminal leases receive large commission payments from the leasing company when they sign a merchant up for a terminal leasing program. So you have a system of affiliate marketing there. This means what? It means that the equipment leases are in the best interest of the processors and the merchant broker reps that peddle them, but not in your best interest as a merchant. So why you shouldn't lease a terminal? Well, you have to really understand that leasing your hardware is very simple. It's just not cost effective because leases are often for long periods of time and include steep penalties for early cancellations or breaking your lease. You could be stuck paying an inflated monthly fee for years. This is not economically great for you. So it's just better to let's say to pay for stuff, really, if you think about it that way. So what's the epilogue here to this conversation? I spoke to you about the hidden credit card fees processors might charge you. I give you the prologue and then the epilogue. Thank you so much. God bless you. I'll see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.